Dow turns negative after conflicting trade deal reports. Stocks gyrated Tuesday as investors puzzled over conflicting reports over the progress of U.S.-China trade negotiations. Bloomberg News initially reported, citing people familiar with the matter, that U.S. officials are worried China may be pushing back against U.S. demands in the country's ongoing trade talks. That report knocked the Dow Jones Industrial Average down to trade slightly below the flatline from being up nearly 200 points. The 30 stock in the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite were also buffeted by the conflicting reports. Caterpillar shares briefly traded lower before holding 0.1% higher. Boeing also paired. Semiconductor stocks also fell from their highs of the day before recovering. The VanEck Vector's sentiment around the talks turned more positive recently as investors expected a deal to be reached between late March and April. This, in turn, Randy Frederick, Vice President of Trading and Derivatives at Charles Schwab, said investors have grown complacent as this issue, along with Brexit in Europe, have yet to be fully resolved. I feel like the market is pricing in a best-case scenario on both of these things, Frederick said. This is a good time. We've had a tremendous run in the S&P 500 since December 26, Frederick added. We're only a few Stocks initially moved higher on Tuesday as the Federal Reserve kicked off its two-day policy meeting on Tuesday. The Fed is also expected to lower its interest rate forecasts plots to show little or no further tightening in 2019. With global my expectations are that the Fed will maintain their dovishness, said Gregory Farinello, head of rates at Roberts Ryan. The eyes will be on the one potential area of concern would be if the data was not cooperating with the pivot, Farinello said. When we look at its January meeting, the Fed indicated it will be patient in raising rates. That shift came after stocks have been on a tear since the Fed's last meeting in late January. In that time, the rally could extend further as several investors are still on the sidelines. A survey put to CNBC's Spriha Srivastava and Sam Meredith contributed to this report.
Raindrop, truck top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.